Well, I was a court reporter, and at that time we talked into a steno mask. It was over your face and your mouth. You repeated every word in the courtroom. Then later on you went back into the office and this whole legal-sized piece of paper, no errors. You had to type it out on a dictaphone. That went along fine, except we had a railroad track right alongside the courtroom. And there's a crossing there. And sure enough, every watch that I had, taking in depositions and so forth, the train would come through, the whistle would blast out everything that was said. So we'd go back to the office and try to figure out what was going on in there. I made some movies at Great Lakes. My biggest hit was Know Your Navy Exchange. For those veterans coming back from the war in Japan and Germany, they needed to know how to act like civilians again. And then I decided that I'd like to fly, and I thought California was a golden city with all this gold all the way around it, and that's where I wanted to go. So I was working for Captain Pilex at that time, and he said, I hate to let you go, Gloria, but go ahead. So I visited with him, and we talked about different things, and I headed off from Moffett Field, VR-3, Military Air Transport Squadron. I flew all over the world. I met so many wonderful people and took fathers and sons and daughters and moms back and forth. And we had a cradle run going to Alaska. It was wonderful duty. I just enjoyed it thoroughly. When I got my hash mark, I was still a seaman because at that time, women could not fly. What was I doing? But women had no rate for flying, so I was a seaman. And I was walking along with a red hash mark on my, which means 4 years of active duty. And an officer saw me, he said, no, Gloria, you've got to make a choice. Yeoman, personnelman, or a storekeeper. Well, I didn't want to push clothes, storekeeper. I didn't know, shorthand. So I said, well, I'll take personnelman. So I was a personnelman, 3rd class. I took the test and passed it. No longer could I fly. Then I had to teach flying school. Does it make any sense? Okay. Diane McNair was in the war from the Vietnam time. She is our one Army gal. We take in Army associates with the Bay Area Waves, if they're good. She's naughty, but she still comes in because we have the same birthday. She was in Vietnam from 1974 to 1976. Diane McNair.
Thank you. I want to give you a brief history of women in the Army, and then I'll talk a little bit about my experience. The Women's Army Auxiliary Corps was established in 1942 to help the men in uniform, and by 1943, there were 60,000 women serving in administration, communication, and logistics positions. The Women's Army Auxiliary Corps was changed to the Women's Army Corps and became part of the military in 1943. Between 1943 and 1945, there was 140,000 women in the Army. Their efforts didn't go unnoticed, and many were given medals for their service of valor after World War II. There were 565 Bronze Stars given, 62 Legion of Merit medals, 10 medals for heroic actions, 3 air medals, and 1 Distinguished Service Medal. In 1948, the Women's Army Corps became part of the regular Army, and they continued to serve in Korea, in the Berlin crisis, and the Cuban crisis. In 1954, a permanent training center was set up for the women in Fort McClellan, Alabama. That's where I had my training. Women were limited to the number who could join between 1954 and 1961. They basically limited it to 500 commissioned officers, 75 warrant officers, and 7,500 enlisted. In 1960, the Women's Army Corps were serving in the Far East, Hawaii, Japan, Okinawa, Korea, and Thailand. In 1961, the regular forces were being expanded and requests were being called up, and this opened up new opportunities for the WAC. Women wanted to serve, and they started wanting to volunteer to go to Vietnam. At that time, General Westmoreland asked the Pentagon to provide WAC officers and non-commissioned officers to assist the Republic of Vietnam in organizing and training a Women's Armed Forces Corps to help the Vietnamese men. President Nixon eliminated the draft, and the Army became an all-volunteer Army. The number of WAC continued to be kept low until 1972, when they were able to train as MPs, mechanics, intelligence, signal, and ordnance.
Excuse me.
They could not serve in any of the infantry, armory, or artillery positions. The Women's Army Corps was discontinued in 1978 when they became part of the regular Army and were called soldiers. At that time, they were trained in weapons training, and they did basically the same type of training that men did, as far as the shooting and and they have been successfully integrated into the Army at this point. When I was in the military, I was in the Goldie Hawn military. I was very lucky. I had the option of choosing my MOS or choosing where I wanted to go. So I selected Germany and ended up in Bamberg, Germany. There were 40 women and 8,000 men. So it was a very interesting experience, to say the least. I'm proud I served. When I joined, I had no idea what was going to happen. It was kind of scary, but yet it was a wonderful experience to find that I was able to do something by myself without depending on any other person except Uncle Sam. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Diane. Could your grandmother or your great-grandmother be a veteran and not know it? Ask her. I was told nothing when I just got my discharge papers from the Navy. As a matter of fact, I typed up my own discharge papers. In my 40s, I wanted to go to college, and I thought, oh, the kids are gone from the nest now. I can go to school. So I went on campus at De Anza's college, and I saw a Vietnam veteran, and I said to him, why, you look so scruffy. You know, I was in the Navy, and I wasn't a veteran, and I'd be ashamed to look like that. Wait a minute, young lady, you were in the Navy, you're a veteran. I said, no, I'm not. Took me by the hand to the campus office, the veterans office there, and I would have missed my GI rights to go to college by 1 week had I not signed up that day. So I signed up that day, I got my benefits for my college, they paid for my college degree. I was on the honor roll after the first struggling year. And then I bought my house on my GI Bill and lived in Cupertino for 30 years, in my house. I soon became active for women so that they would know their benefits. I worked with Waves National and then founded the Bay Area Waves 29 years ago in August. We've come a long way, baby, and we're still something special. I have 5 women in my unit who are 90 and over. The oldest one is 99 this year, Evelyn Lackey, and she runs circles around me. The rest of them are volunteering here and there, everywhere. They're really wonderful, wonderful, beautiful people. We have a song that harmonizes with Anchors Away. I'm not going to sing it to you. I used to do some singing, but it's long gone now. The song goes like this. Waves of the Navy, there's a ship coming down the bay, and she won't slip into port again until that victory day. Carry on for the gallant ship, and for every hero brave who will find a shore, his man-sized chore was done by a Navy wave.